There are two things that dance can never be again. Beautiful and cheerful.
You're living with dangerous people.
Why does everyone think the worst is over?
What's up, everybody? Greg and Ryan here for our spoiler-filled review of Suspiria. Now we're gonna break down that movie, talk about our love for Tilda Swinton, and go over the ending.
Now, there are spoilers ahead for Suspiria 2018, the film that we came here to talk about. So make sure you've seen that before watching this video. We're also probably going to talk a little bit about the original Argento film from 1977. That's really hard to find right now. We recommend that you watch it because it's a pretty cool horror movie, but if you haven't seen it, we're not really going to ruin that one.
But first, make sure to subscribe to Universe, where we got you covered for comic deep dives, TV breakdowns, and movie reviews. You can check out our spoiler talk on the chilling adventures of Sabrina right now. Okay, right off the bat, upon initial viewing, I will just say this is the only time we've seen it once.
Seen it one time.
You gotta see it more than once, but I love this movie. I'm sorry, I'm in love with this movie. It's a work of art. Honestly, I haven't felt this way walking out of a theater since Assassination of Jesse James. And okay, now we're name dropping stuff right now. We sound like a college student just got it fresh out, but I can't help it. This film, I love it.
Get those nerds! Nerd! Nerd!
It's extremely visceral, complex, and it felt like I was in a nightmare the whole time, but I didn't want to wake up, just like the original film.
I loved it too. You know, I was initially expecting a more sort of like campy, nostalgic throwback to like more like trashy horror. I was expecting a little bit of like Grindhouse, the Tarantino Rodriguez sort of send-up of movies of a period, you know, mixed with the European Italian horror of the roots of the film. And once the trailers rolled around, I started to see like maybe this is gonna be more like Bergman, like Cries and Whispers.
I only watched one trailer. I never watched the second trailer. I only watched one, the teaser, and I was like, okay, that's it. I don't want to watch anything else in the movie.
Me too. And I immediately thought of Bergman, and then followed by Robert Altman, like Three Women, like these like 70s
again, we're
creepy movies that are just the like insanity, female-focused films.
Yeah.
And on that note, that's sort of what we got. But I wasn't expecting that this movie would stand out so much on its own, as its own film, as a strong film, and it carries its own personality. It is very different from the original. It's a sort of like Kubrickian adaptation in that it just sort of picks little pieces out. To build a new concept around.
Yeah, remember, Guadagnino said that this film was an homage, a love story to the feeling he had for Argento's film. It's not the same, but they do dance together.
There is a sort of plot similarity, but similarity.
Yes, tiny.
I feel like if you've seen Suspiria 2018, you've sort of seen 1977.
The beats are there.
Sort of.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, let's jump into what worked now for the film. Right off the bat, Luca Guadagnino, the direction, cinematography, all key in this film. And the reason for that is he brought his whole team, basically, from Call Me By Your Name to work on this film, right after.
And Call Me By Your Name, I think, was probably my favorite film of last year. It really came out of left field to me in terms of just the tone of film out there in general. Yeah, if you have not seen Call Me By Your Name,
go see it.
After you watch Suspiria, go check out Call Me By Your Name. It's a great film.
Our hearts and our bodies are given to us only once. And before you know it, your heart's worn out. And as for your body, there comes a point when no one looks at it, much less wants to come near it.
I think it is worth talking about, though, very specifically, the craft of the film.
Yes.
You know, one of the things that I think struck both of us right from the get was the film editing.
Oh, it hits you right in the first minute.
The way that the movie opens at the doctor's office, The cutting is jarring. It focuses on like a lot of disjointed objects that, you know, the editing is imbuing with meaning, but it's so jerky that it kind of puts you on your back foot. Like you're definitely kind of like, where the heck am I?
Yeah,
and
knocks you off immediately.
And that's something that sort of slowly course corrects over the length of the film. And it does it so subtly that for me, by the end, I wasn't even really thinking about it anymore.
Also, immediately, just looking at the film compared to the Argento film, it is void of primary colors for the most part.
Except that finale.
Except the finale. It is, you're waiting for like, where's the color? Where's the color?
I mean, that's a production design note in general that separates them. You know, the new movie is very much in that vein of the more kind of standard looking 1970s films. And the original Suspiria is like very bold in its look. It has even garish production design that is also simultaneously cheap. Like it's a lot of wallpaper.
Yes.
But with lots of designs. The sets do look kind of cheap and cardboard, but they're like bold colors, extreme angles and geometry and things that call attention and direct where you're looking.
And that camera in the original, it is always moving compared to this film where you do get snap zooms. You get a few of them.
Get a couple of them.
You get a couple of them and you smile when you get them, but it's very different.
Another totally film geeky thing to talk about that I wanted to bring up was the aspect ratio of the movie.
We should make a tally now. Okay, we just got Assassination of Jesse James, Robert Altman. Let's just keep going.
Just keep going.
All right, aspect ratio.
So the original Suspiria from 1977 was a very wide CinemaScope 2:3:5:1 aspect ratio, so very wide, which is popular at the time, or at least more popular at the time than it is now. And you know, we live under the sort of 16:9 regime right now. A lot of movies and TV shows that you get streaming are formatted for 16:9. They are not showing the entire frame or doing something wrong with the image. And I think it's interesting that Guadagnino and his cinematographer decided to shoot the old standard Academy aperture 1.85:1, which is slightly wider.
Just a little.
Than 16:9. It goes from 1.77 to 1.85.
But it makes a difference.
It makes a difference. And it's still sort of in the sort of boxiness enough range that it allows them to do all of the things that are still effective in the film. Like there's the sort of featured verticality in the frames, the use of high angles to cover the dancing in the finale, and also close-ups are still full of tension when they're tight on the face. But it is a kind of almost trolly difference. And it makes me wonder, when this is available on Amazon, is it going to be the original theatrical aspect ratio?
Ooh, that's a good question. We'll find out next month.
To steer off of the technical nerdy side of things,
let's go back to the story.
Let's go back to the story. Something that I thought was amazingly effective in the new movie was historical context. There is the Lufthansa Flight 181 hostage crisis, and there are other elements of East and West Germany relations and these tones of the time that reflect the German national guilt, the themes of tension and sort of bleakness for the post-World War II Germany reflect the feelings and tones for the characters who are, many of them survivors of the war. So it creates a more holistic world tone, whereas the original Argento film, it doesn't have any of that. It's just sort of like, there's a dance academy, it's got witches, the outside world doesn't even exist.
Also, I loved all of the Coven witches, by the way. Miss Tanner's laugh is so devilish. I loved it.
Angela Winkler plays that part. She's actually one of the main characters in the show Dark, and that's a fantastic show if you haven't watched that already. I'm totally with you. I love the Coven as well. They're so well characterized. There's so much more humanity to them in this version than there is in the original.
Yeah.
You know, here they have their own personalities, they have their own social life. You know, we see them having dinner together, we see them going out together. They appear as individuals, and they're all very interesting and kind of cool characters. And that also speaks to something else that's very conspicuous and awesome about the movie, is that it is almost entirely a cast of women. There are almost no men. You know,
Except
Tilda Swinton obviously plays the most prominent male role in the film, but otherwise it's just those two detectives, I think. And
how are they used in that one scene we get with them?
And going back to the Coven, they're like hypnotizing them and like just sort of playing with them in a trance state.
They're just
It's freaking hilarious.
looking at their dicks, just laughing, cackling. I loved it. and that's it. That's the only time you see the guys on screen.
That's it.
That's it.
Now, we both love this movie.
Yes.
That's safe to say.
Yes.
Okay, but there's a couple things to criticize, talk about, maybe don't quite hit the mark, don't quite work for us.
It's tiny and subjective because mine happens to be Dakota Johnson. She did a great job. I just felt looking at her every time on screen, I'm like, she's too modern. It takes me out of the film where everyone else is grounded in this 70s film. I felt like I was in the right timeline. Even with Tilda Swinton, who's the most recognizable actor on screen at any point in the movie, I was never taken out. Every time Dakota Johnson was on screen, I'm thinking, oh, I was taken out of it for a second. And this is also because of Mia Goth, who plays Sarah in the film. She looks dead on the original Sarah from the Argento film. So that did not help at all.
I definitely get what you're saying. You know, I don't know that it affected me as much, but for the parts of the film that do not have Dakota Johnson, it could almost be like found footage from the 70s.
Or a Fassbender film or something.
Right.
There you go, another tag, Fassbender now. We got him in there.
Got Fassbender, we'll
All
get
right.
Volker Schlondorf in a minute.
Yep.
But it could have been like just reels discovered in a vault in terms of how well the visual parody to the period works. And with Dakota Johnson, is it in the performance? Is it hair and makeup? Is it almost as simple as hair and makeup?
Maybe, but again, this is our first viewing of this movie.
Just one time.
So maybe next time I'm gonna be like, oh no, she's fine. It's all good.
Totally possible. Something that didn't quite work for me, and I love the overall storytelling, we talked about the time period and the reflections and blah, blah, blah. The framing of the act structures, the 6 acts and an epilogue.
Oh, no, I needed that.
Totally did not need that. I'm happy to have a 2.5-hour slow-moving European style film without that.
No.
I can live with a couple. You know, like give me 2 act breaks and an intermission like Barry Lyndon or 2001. But I don't need 6 act breaks.
This is to tell you, just to remind you, you're alive. You're not in a coma. This movie will end at some point. I'm okay with that for this movie.
I mean, what is it supposed to be broken up for like 20-minute TV episodes or something? Like, what are we doing here?
Nerd!
Last thing for me that didn't quite work, and I want to say not quite because I did like it, was Tom York's score.
Oh, I loved it.
I mean, I think that it fit the tone of the film perfectly. He draws from some of the original Goblin roots and, the styles that we might more associate with Tom York. I did feel a little bit popped out by hearing his vocals.
Oh, at the very end, yes. So
There's an earlier vocal one, and then there's the finale. The finale one
is a little distracting.
At first, and then once we're in full swing of exploding people and the driver's license photos of the
You're fully in.
Marcos, and then I was fully in at that point. In fact, but again, I was it had me thinking about the music. Like, I was watching that finale and trying to imagine what it was like to edit that without the music. Because the music had become such an important part of it. It's almost a music video. And I think just for, being my age and being so aware of Radiohead,
it's tough not
over
to go,
decades
this is a
at this
Radiohead
point.
music video now.
And like hearing Tom York's voice, specifically his voice, it's not the music and the score for the rest of the film. I thought it was fantastic. But just hearing his voice, like, you can't get away from it. It's like Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid with Bob Dylan. It's like Bob Dylan starts singing, it's like it's Bob Dylan. You can't get away from that, and it's not a bad thing, but it distracted me. Like, I just have to admit that it distracted me, and I think it was very good, but distracting.
That's fair. Side note, this is Tom York's first score. Hey, he's now joined Johnny Greenwood and Phil Selway.
I mean, it is an awesome freshman effort to do the film score, and what a great film to do it on.
My first film score was Suspiria. Just,
That's all.
The piece will be called Wieder öffnen, open again. Ali.
Let's talk about Tilda Swinton.
Oh, yes.
The ubiquitous Tilda Swinton, who appears throughout Suspiria in many different places.
I love her. She's like, the thing is, I've loved her for years, including Ben Kingsley, but they have very different careers. They're in everything. But Ben Kingsley, when I mean everything, he's in, he's got some like Blood Rain movies in there. He does it all. He doesn't care. Tilda Swinton, she's like, no, I won't do that.
Tilda Swinton really does a lot of great work throughout the whole world. You see her in films from all different countries. I mean, I saw her in one of Bela Tar's Hungarian movies, and then she appeared in Snowpiercer. She's
anything.
She'll go anywhere.
She's in The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio, that crappy movie. She's still great. Come on, she's in everything.
I have to admit, I'm still a little disappointed that she wasn't tapped to play Philip Jeffries in Twin Peaks: The Return instead of that tea kettle, but that's me.
Now, Tilda Swinton plays at least 3 characters. Helena Marcos, Madame Blanc, and finally, Joseph Kempler. Now, I could not tell that she was Joseph until maybe the dinner scene where she's talking
she has
to Susie,
lunch with Susie.
And that's when I started to notice, that's prosthetics. That's got to be someone else. And then the only person I could think of was Tilda?
Yep, that was the moment it dawned on me.
Yeah.
In October 2018, Swinton told the New York Times that Dr. Klemperer was played by LUTZ EBERSDORF, and EBERSDORF was played by her. For the sheer sake of fun above all, the intention was never to fool anybody. The genius of Marc Coulier, the makeup artist, notwithstanding, it was always our design that there would be something unresolved about the identity of the performance of Klemperer. So she so fully sort of inhabited the role that she even had like prosthetic genitalia, and not just in that scene at the end where Kemper is naked, but throughout the filming.
She was rocking it. The Academy's gonna have their hands full. I hope it's not like a Kyle MacLachlan situation where they're like, so many different characters, we don't know what to go with.
Not enough to go with one.
She has juicy scenes with each and every character.
Well, let's not forget that Peter Sellers was nominated for multiple roles in Dr. Strangelove, so there is definitely precedent for getting an Oscar nomination for multiple roles.
Okay. Speaking of Tilda and her character Joseph, we have to talk about Jessica Harper, who makes a cameo in this film, playing his wife, Anka.
Right, she was the lead. She played Susie in the original movie.
It's a great scene. It's touching. It's pretty short, but it's heartbreaking.
Higher, 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 higher.
Sometimes I only need to be told twice.
All right, now that we have gone through pretty much everything we wanted to talk about.
For now.
I know you wanted to get into the ending, what kind of really went down there.
Yes, so we're gonna jump into that
It's
right now.
It's a lot of convoluted, weird stuff going on. The driver's license photos, the exploding people.
Marcos. Okay, to get started, there's a little bit of context you need for this film before we talk about the ending, and that's the 3 mothers.
Right. So they're explained somewhat throughout the movie in this sort of lore of these witches that have survived for a very long time.
Long time.
There's a little bit of sort of external referencing going on there as well, because it actually ties back to the original film and actually a few of Argento's films.
Dario Argento's original film took the concept from the poet Thomas de Quincey's Suspiria de Profundis, which stemmed from his opium addiction. Argento's trilogy of films established that each mother has a specific home base where they can spread their darkness.
Pre-Muzzles, pre-God, pre-Devil, Mother Tenebrarum, Mother Lacrimarum, and Mother Suspiriorum.
So the Witches of the Academy look to serve all three of these witches, or at least one of them, from what we got in the movie, because Germany is Suspiriorum. Now, Helena Marcos claims that she's Suspiriorum,
right,
which sets off these trail of events that happen right after that, also involving Madame Blanc, who believes that this might not be the case.
Right, and that's why they're trying to hasten all of the events in the movie.
Yes.
Because Marcos wants to gain basically her youth back and her power before it's really figured out that she's a fraud.
So this is where Susie Bannon comes into play, because Helena Marcos believes that she can use Susie as the new vessel for her withered old body that's dying off. So she needs someone new. Susie Bannon comes into play, and they think she's perfect. Except Madame Blanc believes that this might be a problem here. You shouldn't do this.
Right. Madame Blanc recognizes that something ain't right.
Yeah.
It's a trap!
So the Coven votes for who will lead the Academy in the future. It doesn't go in Madame Blanc's favor at all. This is where we get the Marcos, Blanc, Marcos. Blanc loses.
Blanc loses. And this is why they've been, trapping young women in their their back rooms as they're sucking their power out.
They're
and
looking for the
draining
perfect
them.
vessel.
Exactly. And we do know that Blanc is aware of Susie having special powers.
Yes, we get a scene where they're
it
talking
hasn't
to
dawned
each other.
on her that this is a reincarnation of Mother Suspiriorum, but she knows that there's something up.
Now, setting the scene right before the ritual takes place, we have a few things. Sarah discovers that, okay, this academy is not up to snuff. There's something weird going on here. So she tries to do a little investigating herself. She talks to Joseph Kempler about it, and Kempler decides to go and do a little investigating himself at the academy, which only leads to a scene with his wife.
Right, and then, of course, being captured.
Yes.
And forced to witness the final ritual.
Because apparently you need a male witness.
Apparently you need a naked male witness.
Apparently everyone was naked in that room.
Right, and everyone was in that room. You've got all of the witches, you've got Marcos, you've got all of the dancers, and then you've also got all of the kind of what's left of the dancers that left the academy are also there.
Yeah.
And this is the scene that has the most color. This is the red scene.
This is when the red starts. This is when the Tom York music starts playing.
Matches the Argento film. And it grows to a crescendo. In Suspiria's closing moments, it is revealed that Susie is actually the true reincarnated Mother Suspiriorum. When Susie reveals her true nature to Marcos, a physical embodiment of death arises in the middle of the room and goes directly to Marcos and kills her. Death soon sweeps across the room and kills all of Marcos' supporters. The rest of the witches who survived and the students have the unfortunate duty of cleaning the place up. Then Dr. Joseph is freed, but is later visited by Susie, who wipes his mind of the horrific event and memories of his wife.
Also, we found out that Madame Blanc, she's alive. She did not die. She is alive at the end of the film. She gets her head she's decapitated.
She's mostly decapitated?
Like a Pez dispenser, a backwards Pez dispenser. But
Are you thinking, hold on a second, are you thinking there's a trilogy
I think there
going on
listen,
here?
There's going to be a sequel to Call Me By Your Name. So I would hope maybe that Luca Guadagnino was going to direct a sequel to Suspiria.
Okay. Okay.
In 30 years, maybe? Sure. In the next 5? Probably not.
Neither of these movies need a sequel.
No, they don't.
And yeah, I don't know, does that mean it's gonna be like Argento? You have to wait 30 years for the sequel?
That's all I can see right now.
We'll all be really old?
Very old. Different, and they'll have the same actresses probably back. Tilda Swinton will play every character this time around.
Well, Tilda Swinton isn't gonna age.
No, she won't. Okay, that's it for us over here, everybody. Let us know what you thought of Suspiria in the comment section down below.
Yeah, tell us your favorite moments. Tell us everything that you thought was cool about it. Tell us about things you might have noticed that we missed.
Hey, we're gonna do a bigger deep dive on this film once it gets out on digital release sometime next month, hopefully. We'll see you all then. Bye-bye.